it's Stephanie, and today I wanted to talk about some podcast recommendations because I love podcasts and I literally just love talking to people about podcasts. I have converted like 3 people at my job to start listening to podcasts. It's like my new mission since I have discovered them, basically. And it's so fun. Like, I love watching podcast recommendation videos and just finding new stuff to listen to. So I thought I'd talk to you guys about 4 podcasts that I am just loving right now. The first one I had talked about in my Anything But Books tag. This is a podcast called Crimetown, and it's a Gimlet podcast, and it is about the history of organized crime in America. It just started, so this is the first season. This first season is concentrating on the history of organized crime in Providence, Rhode Island, which, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about organized crime, I guess, in real life in general, but I had no idea that like a Federal Hill and like Providence, Rhode Island were like this hot spot of, mob activity. I mean, I didn't know that. And it's just so interesting. I went into this podcast thinking it was a docudrama in the style of the Black Tapes, where they have, actors and it's all fictionalized, but it's kind of made to sound like a documentary style. And I was shocked when I found out the stuff that they're talking about is real. Like, this is not a fictionalized podcast. This is legit. Also, in my Anything But Books tag, I said Buddy Cianci instead of Buddy Cianci. And I know that's because in my head, I was thinking about Raymond Patriarca and talking about Buddy Cianci. And so I just wanted you guys to know that when I was editing that, I was like, Argh! But it is so fascinating. The stories there and just the stuff that has actually happened. You should definitely check that out. The next podcast I wanted to talk about is a little lighter. It is the Babysitters Club. In this podcast, the 2 hosts, Jack and Tanner, who are 2 men in their 30s, are reading their way through Anne M. Martin's Babysitters Club series. And every episode, they summarize what the book is about. They have several segments that I love. They'll have a segment where they talk about the burn of the week. And if you've read, middle grade novels, they always have some kind of preteen character with like smart alecky responses. It is hilarious, and really dig into the subtext of this work and try to find crazy depth in these like 100-page middle grade novels. They get very conspiratorial with what they find, and it is hilarious. If you're familiar with the works of Anne and Martin and you want just a quick episode and you want to laugh, I definitely recommend it. The next podcast I wanted to talk about is a pop culture podcast, and this is 2 podcasts, but the first one I'm going to talk about is 30-20-10. This is a weekly podcast where they'll talk about basically this week in pop culture 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and 10 years ago. So it's 2017, so it'll be, this week in 1987, 1997, and 2007. And they go through, the hit movies that were coming out this week, and they'll play trailers and have commentary and really reminisce about these movies, any special TV episodes that were coming out, hit songs were on, and they get into video games, which I don't really know a whole lot about, but everything else is totally worth it, and I absolutely love this podcast. I look forward to it every Thursday. Like, it is one of the best parts of my Thursday is listening to the new 30-20-10 episode. As someone who listens to a lot of podcasts, is how much I like the hosts and the chemistry that they have with each other. They're great, and the chemistry is there, and I just absolutely love it. Like I said, they do another podcast, which is called Lazer Time, and this is more of a specific pop culture. They'll kind of do topics like fictional presidents, weird TV timelines. I think the one that they just did was on saying goodbye to characters, and they were talking about Logan. 30-20-10 encompasses like everything, but Lazer Time is a little more specific in what their episodes are about. And I told you, I love these guys. I absolutely love listening to all of their podcasts. And then the last podcast I wanted to talk about is also a pop culture podcast, and it is the West Wing Weekly. I've been on a huge 90s Netflix kick. I started watching The West Wing. I am rewatching The X-Files with my sister. I love The West Wing Weekly, hosted by Rishikesh Hirway and Joshua Malina, who was an actor in, I think, the later seasons. I've never seen The West Wing, so I cannot speak for what happens in the later seasons. I'm in season 2 right now. So, of course, they get together and they talk about what actually happened on the show, and Josh, of course, who used to be on the show, will talk about certain directors. If you knew anything about them, they'll have actual actors who were on the show come in and talk about specific episodes. I think so far they've had like Bradley Whitford and Rob Lowe. And what I love that they also do is they will take the legislative themes that are in each episode and reach out and actually talk to actual lawmakers, actual like congressmen and senators and legislators that have experience with that theme that they went over in the show, or have a specific story about that, or can expound upon something that was mentioned in the show. So it is just really great, and I absolutely love it. I definitely recommend it if you have ever watched The West Wing, or if you're like me and you're watching it for the first time. So anyway, guys, those were 4 kind of 5 podcasts that I wanted to talk about with you today. And again, if you have any podcast recommendations for me, I would love to hear them. I am always open to new podcast recommendations. If you listen to any of these podcasts, I would love to talk to you. So talk to me in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.